Hey, what's up guys, Andy here, and today we are finally getting my Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood review done. I know I've been saying I was going to do this for a long time, but this video took a lot longer than I thought it was to get done. And this is actually my second take through going through it because my old mic was garbage and it sounded like trash. So I decided to go ahead and redo the whole thing for you. Even though I wasn't all the way done, it's still a little bit of a hassle, but I'm really excited for this because I'm going to basically be discussing why I feel like this is the best anime series that I've ever seen, if not the best, period. But I'm also going to be discussing all of the characters who did anything, pretty much. And we're going to be going over all that, and we're going to be doing a little bit more of like what I thought about the series in the long run. So, yeah. Probably going to be my longest anime video I've ever done on the channel, if not the longest video, period. But yeah, like I said, let's just get right into this. I kind of want to keep this intro short because this video is going to be really long. But I do want to say there are going to be major and minor spoilers throughout this whole entire video on pretty much every character. So, if you haven't seen it for some reason, I don't know what to tell you. I would go watch it first, definitely, because it's an amazing anime, and nonetheless, you know, you kind of need that for the context here, but let's get right into this video.
They say you don't gotta go home, but you can't stay here. And no, I don't wanna be alone in the world out there.
So to start us off, I want to go ahead and get the biggest question out of the way. Why I feel like this is the best anime ever made. Storytelling. It's pretty simple. This anime, everything that happens serves a bigger point in the story later on. I do want to also say that this anime does that very well, on top of all of the characters, like I said, have some purpose. Like, you never meet a character who doesn't do anything in the series, pretty much. Even little throwaway characters like Dr. Marco, who I thought were going to be one-offs, literally came back and played, like, a major role in the end. But, yeah, so that's just what, like, the story is just insane. Also, it knew when to quit, okay? So, like, I seen an analogy on, it was, like, the last video for, the series. Someone put in the comments on Crunchyroll, they were like, it's like a roller coaster, and I was like, what do you mean? And they explained it by saying, you were so happy to get on board, like, you loved it so much, and it was such a good ride, but it was so quick, but you're satisfied that it's over. I don't know if I can fully explain that in my own words, but like, I was satisfied with the ending overall because it had a really good end to it. Everything that needed to happen happened, and even though I would have loved to seen some more stuff with Alphonse and everything, they knew when to quit. They knew when they should have quit, and they did. So that's what I really like about this series. So like, it's like a roller coaster. You get on, you're super hyped, you're on it, you're having the time of your life. But when you get off, you know, you're happy. You're satisfied that it's over. You know, it's like you can always go back and get back on it. It's gonna be the same exact ride, but you know, I don't know. I hope I explained that well enough. But I do also want to say I did originally watch this in the dubbed. I did go back and watch subbed, but in the dubbed, it was amazing. It is the best dub I have ever seen, hands down. I'm currently rewatching Blue Exorcist right now, but I don't think Blue Exorcist will be my favorite anime after I finish it, because like this series was so good in what it did. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the talk about all the characters, because this is going to take forever. So I want to go ahead and start off and say my favorite character is Ling when Greed is in his body. It was such a fun dynamic, and even though it didn't last too long, it was still amazing. These two characters by themselves were awesome. You put them together, though, and they have this dynamic to where Ling wants to save his homeland, and Greed wants to take over the world. So Ling kind of has, like, the same ambition, because he wants to take over his country. But then if you think about it, like, Greed wants to just do more than that, because, you know, he's Greed. Obviously, he's more greedy. But they kind of have the same little goal, and the way that Greed got into his body was really... he just let it happen. He didn't know what was going to happen, but he let it happen. Nonetheless, Ling and Greed kind of worked out. When it first happened, I'm going to say this. When it first happened, I didn't think I was going to like it. I thought, oh, he's just going to become Greed, whatever, you know, or he's going to... Plot twist, he overcame Greed, and now Greed's a really good guy and wants to just help him with Shing. It kind of happened like that, but not really. So, one last thing I want to talk about before we move on to the main cast, and I'll discuss Ling and Greed's characters on their own, just like a lot shorter than this, clearly. But at the end of the series, Mei says to Ling, she says, "You're trying to protect everyone, it's just too greedy." And Ling says, "I guess he rubbed off on me after all." So I really thought that was a cool thing for them to go back to. And yeah, that's why Ling/Greed is my favorite character. But now let's move on to the main character, Edward Elric. Ed is my favorite anime main character ever. Now, there's a lot of main characters who are good. I personally love Rin. I personally love Natsu, even though Natsu's kind of friendship wins everything. I love Luffy. I love all these characters. But the reason why I love Ed so much is not only is he an underdog, but he never won a fight through bullshit. Every fight he was in that he won, he should have won. He had the ability to win those fights. It wasn't like, oh, the power of friendship in anime is on my side, so I'm gonna win, guys. No, it was, you know, I'm here. You know what I can do. Here's my alchemy. You see what my alchemy can do. It's basic alchemy, just like everyone else. Even though he didn't need a transmutation circle, it was still just base alchemy. He didn't have anything too special about him, so he never won any fight that he shouldn't have won. That's why I love him, but also he's a fun character. He's laid back. Everything just works out perfect with Ed's character. Now, is Ed one of my favorite characters of all time? He's probably in my top 20. Just because he's my favorite main character, there's not a lot of main characters on my tops. But yeah, he's just such a good overall written character, and I love his look and his outlook on life and everything, because it was just so beautifully portrayed in the anime. I'm debating on reading the manga, because I assume it's a lot better in the manga. But yeah, let's move on to Alphonse now. Alright, so my boy Alphonse here. I am not gonna lie, I hated Alphonse. When he first showed up, I didn't hate him, but like when I started the series, I hated him before I started the series, because I always seen Ed walking around with this huge robot, and I thought that's retarded. Come to find out, I love I love Alphonse's character. Al is one of those characters who, he's the softy of the two, but we find out that he's stronger than Ed. He's like Ed's moral compass too, because like, without Alphonse being like in that suit, Ed would have probably killed himself from like the trauma that he caused the two of them. We all know he was still, you know, pretty broken about it, but he would have probably just ended it all, to be honest. It's really sad. And Al's shining moment for me is when they were fighting Greed and the Chimeras, and that girl, the snake chimera, was inside of him, and they said, please keep her safe. And, you know, Wrath was trying to kill all of them. And he was trying to keep her safe as best as he could, and he couldn't. And that's just one of those things to where, like, it was really sad. Because Al was probably the character that resonated the most with a lot of people. Excuse me, because he was a sympathetic, nice guy and all that other stuff, but he was still badass. And when he started being able to use alchemy without the, you know, the transmutation circle, he just became even more cool. And like I said, he also never beat anybody he shouldn't have beat. And he also had a lot of funny scenes, which really made me like him a lot more as well. But let's get into why I feel like these two make such a perfect dynamic as main characters for this series. Alright, so besides the fact that they're brothers and that they did the whole human mutation thing together, these two's dynamic really worked out pretty well. Ed is kind of the reckless one, while Al is the sincere one, so they kind of just mesh that bond together really nicely. And not counting, they're both really lovable characters. You can't say otherwise. I mean, they really are. But if you think about it, in the heat of the moment, they just grow on you so nicely that's why they make such a good pair to be both main characters. But you can't even have the discussion of Ed and Al without Winry. Now, Winry is a character, because I've been burnt by these types of characters before, where they're kind of in the background, but Winry won me over the moment she couldn't shoot that gun. That scene was just so powerful, even though Scar was the one who killed her parents when they were trying to help him live. She couldn't pull the trigger, which just goes to show you how much character that she has, to where, she wants to save every possible life, even if they were doing the most heinous things possible. And keep in mind, Scar was fighting Ed and Al at that point with the intention to kill them, and she still couldn't pull the trigger. Of course, later on, Ed couldn't pull the trigger either, so it kind of all played back. But Winry's character is just such a good support character to the main cast that it's honestly insane. And I want to go ahead and share some of the last episode's things here, because it choked me up a little bit. When Ed was talking with Winry, kind of like on terms of like dating, like they love each other, Ed said equivalent exchange, the equivalent exchange thing for love, I'll give you half of my heart, you give me half yours kind of thing. And it was so cute, and they said a heart made full of metal, which goes back to the Fullmetal Alchemist. It's such a cute scene, and I really kind of choked up on it, which there's not a lot of stuff in this anime that really choked me up. But that was one of the biggest ones. On top of that, Winry's just a great character overall. She's Ed's mechanic, their long-time friend, and she understands what they're going through. She did have a few moments to where she kind of didn't really get irritating, but she just kind of was like, you don't know anything about them, and that was kind of, excessive a little bit in my opinion, but she's right. She knows more about Ed and Al than anybody. So, it was justified in the long run. But let's talk about how they all fit together. So, the way all these characters kind of fit together is beautiful in my opinion. And, they're all lifelong friends. Al had a crush on Winry. Winry had a crush on Ed. They all poke fun at each other a little bit here and there, but they all have each other's backs. At the end of the day, they would do anything for each other. And we even seen that with them wanting to use Winry as a puppet, pretty much, like, Ed, you play by the rules, or, we're gonna take away your family. So, that was really nice, but, I just love the dynamic of these three overall. Even though it's more Ed and Al, the character blend, when Winry is there, is no different from when she's not. It's all perfect in my opinion. But now let's get on to the villains. Alright, so now to the enemies. Pretty much everyone with an Ouroboros tattoo is enemy. Besides maybe Greed. I will talk about Greed in the enemy section, but we'll discuss that when we get there. The first character I want to talk about is Father, or the Dwarf in the Flask, aka Von Hohenheim's reincarnated, father, brother, whatever you want to call him. He's made from his DNA, and this dude pretty much, he's strong, but he's also just I don't know how to explain it. He's strong, but he's very weak all at the same time. Because he thought that he had the power of something he didn't have. Which, in retrospect, he's probably one of my least favorite of the villains. Even though they're all created from him pretty much, except for 2 or 3, which we'll talk about. But, yeah, I really do like his overall character. his reveal was really cool, and the whole backstory of him actually just being like that ball of mass in the flask was really cool. But let's talk about the actual 7 sins really quick. Alright, so I kind of put these in somewhat of an order, but not really. So I wanted to talk about Sloth first, seeing as he's my least favorite of the sins. He's just kind of a big brute, and although I did enjoy the Armstrong family taking on Sloth, he's just a boring villain, to be honest. He's just a mindless brute with muscles. That's about it. He still had a cool fight, though. But moving on to Gluttony. There's not much to say about Gluttony, but when old boy gets mad, he turns into the Incredible Food Hulk. And absorb shit into a pocket dimension. Kinda. Kinda. Yeah, kinda. Overall, Gluttony's abilities is really cool. He's just kind of another oaf, though, so I didn't really like him because there's no dynamic to him. But, still a cool ability. Moving on to Lust. Now, Lust is a character, she was the first one of the sins to die, and it was really cool to watch her, kind of like transition and play that part as the bad guy, and her fight with Mustang was amazing. But when he just kept flicking his finger and she just kept catching on fire, it was such a powerful scene, and it showed us that they can be killed. Even though they're homunculi, they can be killed. So she served a really good purpose. And Wrath. Bradley, I always kind of knew was a bad guy. We kind of got hinted at that a lot. But even though he was a bad guy, that doesn't change the fact he was a badass. And if you take that away from him, if he would have been a complete surprise, I don't think he would have been as built up nicely as he was, because he was the ultimate villain, pretty much, except for Father. And with Bradley, though, he was kind of like the guy who you knew was a badass, but like deep down you knew he was bad. Like he was a literal badass. But I don't know. His character is kind of like off to me. I mean, he was trained in a camp to be the leader, the Fuhrer. But like he had a bad backstory, but like that doesn't change the fact that he's a complete asshat. And him and Ling, they had a beautiful exchange of words about, like, do people's lives matter and all this stuff, the people. And I thought that was really cool. But besides his fighting ability and him just being a complete and utter badass, there's not much to him. Now, doing a complete 360 to someone whose character was actually, like, not as foreseeable, Pride. Salim Bradley, the Fuhrer's son, was a homunculi. And when we first seen him when he was fanboying over Al, I had no idea. I don't know if other fans actually kind of figured it out and pieced it together, but I didn't. When they revealed him to be Pride, I was like, you gotta be shitting me, holy shit. But no, he's a really cool character, and the fact that he went back and, I don't know if he was reborn. Like I said, I'd have to rewatch the actual, like, show and then maybe check out the manga to figure it out, but he was brought back and he lived a peaceful life under, with his mom, and I found that really cute because he did admit that he loved his time with her, but this was kind of his purpose, it was his purpose to do this. So yeah, Pride's a really cool character, but now let's get on to my favorite of the homunculi. Yeah, my favorite one of the homunculi is Envy. Envy's character just kept coming back, and I'm pretty sure he had more screen time than any other one of the villains. He killed Hughes, which was his, like, big major thing, and he just kept going and going and literally drove Mustang to the point of, like, Crazy Town. It was a really powerful scene, too, when he committed suicide, so, like, I mean, he was already beaten and he knew he was gonna die, so it was kind of like just him not wanting to be, like, pitied. And he was such a cool character because Okay, so Greed really kind of, like, put into perspective, like, you know, he's actually the sin of greed. Like, he's really greedy. And, you know, Sloth, you know, he's sluggish and gluttony. He's hungry and lust. You know, she's seductive, Wraith's a dick, and, you know, all that stuff. But Envy really wanted to just be human. He envied the humans so much because he couldn't be one. And I feel like he had the most development out of everyone. But yeah, that's why he's my favorite one of the homunculi. But let's just move on to Greed, because I kind of just want to throw him in here just to talk about him. We'll talk about Ling by himself in a minute, though. Alright, so let's talk about Greed. The first Greed we see, to be particular, he was the first homunculus who was not loyal to Father, and I loved him. He tried to reason with Ed, which at the time we didn't know he wasn't, you know, a bad guy. He was just his own well, I can't say he wasn't a bad guy. He was more or less in for himself, but he did save Chimera's lives and he did care for his friends deeply. Which isn't really that greedy, to be honest. He was kind of the failed experiment of Father. And with that respect, I loved it. Now, the second Greed was kind of more loyal to Father up until Lean kind of, you know, got with him. But the first Greed we meet wasn't necessarily a bad guy. But let's move on to someone who was definitely a bad guy in the beginning, but did kind of turn around in the end and helped out. Alright, so Kimley here. Now, Kimley is a character who was completely psychotic evil. We first got to see him in his cell, and he was just crazy then. He was put in that cell because during the Ishvalan War, he stole one of the Philosopher's Stones for his own power and killed a bunch of, you know, military officials. The funniest scene with him is the day he got out, he punked all of the guards, and it was really funny. Not counting he's probably the most badass exorcist fighter we actually got to see in the series, besides maybe Mustang, but you know, you can't really compare the two because Mustang really can't do anything without his gloves or whatever, his ignition. But yeah, Kimley's a really cool character overall, and I really do like him, and he did turn around in the end even though it was kind of too late for him. Shao Tucker. Fuck this guy. Yep, that's about it. Alright, so now these are the characters we kind of have to discuss. It's all of the supporting roles along with kind of the other side characters. But all of them do serve a purpose in the long run, so we have to talk about them. I decided to do the villains first, though, because I kind of just wanted to get them out of the way because I really wanted to talk about them. But these are all kind of like, you know, Edward and Al's mom, dad, Vaughn, you know, their teacher, Marco, Scar, all them. So we're going to get into them right now. So just to start off, I want to go ahead and talk about Trisha. We don't really know too much about her, and these are typically going to be shorter than the villains was. But her role as the mom was kind of like, I guess in my opinion, it was overlooked a bit because, like, she's the whole reason that Ed and Al decided to go through with their whole crazy plan, you know, to bring someone back from the dead, to break the cardinal sin of alchemy. So, like, they must have loved her that much to where they were going to go through with it no matter what, and we've seen the consequences, but other than that, we really don't get too much from her. So, let's move on to Vaughn, who we do get a lot from. Alright, so Ed and Al's father, Von Hohenheim, overall great character. We don't get to see a lot from him until towards the end. But one of his lines was like, he says something about not being that efficient of a fighter, which, you know, we can kind of see, but like, you don't hear that in anime, like, especially from one of the main characters who are pretty much, you know, going to fight, and his whole story was really nicely portrayed, and how they did the whole clone thing of the dwarf, that was really nice as well, because at first I was like, wait a minute, their dad's the villain, and they kind of set it up like that. He walked out on them, all this stuff, but then, you know, his whole character turned 360 near the end. So, I mean, you can take it how you want. I love Vaughn's character overall. They hit me with that swift 360, though, so that was really nice storytelling, in my opinion, anyway. You probably might have seen it, and you was like, oh, he's not, they're setting him up too hard. He can't be the villain. But, yeah, that's about all I really got to say about Vaughn. Other than that, he has a really cool character design in my opinion. So next up we have Pinocchio, who is basically the grandmother figure to Ed Now and, you know, obviously Winry's actual grandma. Her character didn't really serve too much of a purpose other than she was the rock. She was always there if they needed a place to go to, or if they, you know, had problems, they could always turn back and go to her. So she kind of played that essential role in the series to where, like, she's not needed to be on screen a lot, but, you know, she's kind of their moral backing, you know? I guess that's how to explain it. Next up, we have their teacher, Izumi Curtis. Now, she's a character I loved because at the, you know, we got this hype to where she was a badass and everything, but then we learned that she's just a mom. Or, well, a housewife. But, she committed her sin because of her baby, which is kind of the same boat as, you know, Ed and Al. It was a family member who, you know, they loved dearly, and in her case, you know, it was her baby, and her whole story about, you know, that's what I love too. This story really tells everything, because we got the thing about her being up at Briggs or whatever and stealing food, and then it kind of came around later to where they were like, oh, this is like that incident of that one time. But yeah. Izumi's character is really cool. I'm not going to talk about her husband because he's kind of just there and he's a big brute, but him and Armstrong, they had a fun little moment there. That was really cool. But yeah, other than that, I mean, not too much to talk about. She's also kind of like the moral rock, but she does play a fighting role in the series later on. Next up we have Dr. Marco. He's probably one of my favorite side characters because I thought he was dead when Envy attacked, or was it Lust? One of them attacked him, I can't remember which one, but I thought he was dead. I thought they were just using him, that way Ed could learn about, you know, the fake Philosopher's Stone, whatever. But no, they weren't. He plays a huge part in the series in the later half. And not counting, you know, with the whole Scar thing and everything, Marco's a character that was meant for so much, but got so little hype that it just played off his characters that much better. He was, you know, he was a part of the Ishvalan War, and Scar was ready to kill him, but then decided he needed him. And then, you know, Marco was ready to die because he was one of those people who went into hiding because he couldn't deal with being, you know, the government's dog anymore. He didn't want to hurt people. He wanted to help them. And, you know, he helped. He really did. He was a huge part of the whole plan in the end. But yeah, I mean, Marco's one of those characters that I absolutely loved and adored the whole way through, but let's talk about, the man who was gonna kill him really quick. So Scar, probably one of the most badass characters in all of anime. He was the lone avenger of his whole entire nation, well, not nation, kind of race, kind of bigger, you know, and his whole story was just him wanting to get back at the world, you know. He had a lot of, like, little setups here and there, but, like, once you learn his full story and what happened to him, you kind of feel like it's a little bit justified, which is fucked up because he's essentially murdering people for just being exorcist. I've been watching too much Blue Exorcist. But, he's essentially murdering people for using alchemy. And it was just really fun to see his character evolve and grow over time, and he's just one of the better villains well, he was a villain, but not really. I mean, he was I don't know how to describe it. It would be like chaotic lawful, or no, not lawful, chaotic neutral. That would probably be the word. I don't know. Whatever D&D terms it is, I don't play, but, you know. Yeah, but let's talk about his brother, because his brother is a huge reason that he even knew what he is doing for the most part. Alright, so for Scar's brother, there's not too much to talk about, but he is the reason Scar holds the grudge against all of the alchemy users, and he was the one who was set to, you know, protect his whole entire race at the time that the war was going on, and his arm is the reason that Scar is as powerful as he is, and it was a really cool thing to see, like, his whole story come full turn, even though we only ever got to meet him in flashbacks, so that was really cool. But, you know, that's about all I can really say about the guy. Now we get on to one of my all-time favorite characters, Roy Mustang. Mustang is a character that I absolutely loved from the get. His whole resolve is to, be the guy who saves the world pretty much from, the crooked mistakes. And as we see his journey progress, we slowly see him descend into chaos after Hughes got killed. The whole scene with Envy and him going crazy, about to just light Envy up and murder him. It was just crazy to think that his character has fallen so far, It was really nice to see portrayed in the anime, but I kind of just want to read the manga of just that scene. If, the whole manga probably, in the end I'll probably read it, but just that scene is so cool. Him just snapping his fingers, plus he took down Lust, so that was really cool. But yeah, Mustang's just one of those characters you love, and he's the fire user, so he kind of just has that place for me. I don't know why, but fire is always really cool in my opinion, and I guess it's kind of like, a typical anime trope, but it's cool. It's cool as shit. But yeah, let's move on to his right-hand woman. Alright, so Riza Hawkeye. I love her character in the sense that she's gonna follow Mustang to the point of, death. But then again, her character isn't just that simple and plain. She's got the backstory with her father, and she's also got the whole scene where, like I was talking about with Mustang, where he was going crazy. She's the one who stopped him, which, more power to her. She's also really cool, except for she uses guns, which kind of makes little effort in a show about alchemy, but, she's still really efficient with them, and she gets a few good kills here and there. But other than that, I just love her dichotomy with Mustang. They're just two great characters who, are destined to be together. Alright, so this is the one I kind of really didn't want to talk about too much, and that's Hughes and kind of his family in general. Hughes was a great guy. He was a great character. I loved him, but they set him up too strong. They set him up as Mustang's kind of second, and he was doing all this stuff behind the scenes, and as soon as he found those notes on what was going on, I kind of knew it was about to happen and he was going to have to be taken out. Just seeing how he did get taken out, though, was really upsetting, because I really did love his character. And not counting that, it did lead to, Mustang getting, the fire under his ass, but damn, it was fucked. Envy turned into his wife and then fucking just lunged the fucking thing right to him, and it was rough. It was real rough, and it was even worse when Bradley was talking about Hughes' little girl crying at their funeral, and he's like, "You'd never catch my son doing that," and I was just like, damn, dude, there's no respect for this dude after everything he's done. But yeah, I guess that's about all I'm going to say about Hughes. He had a really sad death. Probably the saddest death in the series for me. Besides maybe the little girl who got turned into a chimera. I don't know, it's kind of a flop up between those two. Moving on to the Armstrongs here, we have Alex Louise Armstrong. I loved his character. Overall, he was a really, really cool, kind of not really a mentor, but kind of like a guide for, the kids, but just his character design was so amazing to me. He's got that little twist in the top of his hair, and he's this big, strong, manly man, and nothing like his sister. We find that out, but he's just a cool character who I love. He was honestly hyped up for me a lot because everyone was talking. Excuse me. Everyone was talking about him being one of their favorite characters, and I was just like, oh, this guy can't be that good. But he really is that good. He's funny, he's comedic, and he's a badass. So I love him all the same. But let's go ahead and move on to talk about his sister, who is the more badass of the two. Alright, so let's see if I can say this off the bat first time. Olivier Armstrong. I think that's her name. It might be Olivier. I don't know. I always thought it was Olivier. But anyway, the most badass character in the entire army. She's busted, dog. Legitimately busted. She literally was down to her last leg and still went on to fight more, and then still went on to fight more after that. All her soldiers respect her to death, and they even die for her honor. So, like, you know, she rules with an iron fist, but she has the respect and love from all of her units, I should say. Not counting that, the Briggs arc, I guess you want to call it an arc, the Briggs moments, the few episodes were some of my favorite in the entire series, just because we got to meet her and Miles, which Miles is another one of my favorite characters. But yeah, overall, Olivier, I love her character. She's probably in my top 5 favorite characters in the series. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So I don't know why, but I decided to put the Shin characters in their own kind of little separate portion, and then have a little extra spot for some other characters. I don't know why I did it. Don't at me though. I just did it because I can. I don't know why I didn't put the Ishvalans in their own spot, but fuck you, this is my video, and the layout was made a week and a half ago, so I'm just going with it now recording. Eat me. Alright, so Ling. As y'all know, Ling is pretty much my favorite character, but let's talk about his character before he met up with Greed. Ling was a character who, when first introduced, I hated. I did not like him at all. I thought he was the goofy side character that was just going to cause Ed a lot of trouble, which, in turn, he kind of did, but not really. I mean, he kind of got him out of a lot of trouble, if not anything. Plus, in the end, he played a huge role in the series, so I don't know why I didn't like him in the beginning. I just kind of seen him as a childish little piece of shit who wasn't ever going to do anything, but like I said, everybody in this series does something. But let's talk about his kind of like entourage, because they did a lot in the series as well. So first up we have Lanfan, and she was a character who originally I thought was just kind of cool in a sense to where, you know, it was a girl fighting on the same level as all the guys. But her character's a lot more than just that. She proved that she is loyal to Ling throughout any shout of a doubt. When she literally, I can't remember if she ripped off her arm or cut it off, but like her arm was pretty much useless at that point, and they were getting traced or tracked down by, you know, Wrath, and the only option was to lead them off the trail. So she tied her arm to a dog, and oh my god, it was insane. But yeah, her character's really cool, and now that she has the prosthetic, we didn't get to really see too much with it, other than her fight one time, but it still wasn't fully healed, so it kind of wasn't a good representation of her skill. But overall, I liked her character from the get-go, and it kind of stayed steady throughout the series. Her biggest moment, though, was the whole arm thing, which was really cool in my opinion. But let's move on to her grandfather. Alright, so Fu, he's a character that I enjoyed, not as much as Lanfan, but his, kind of core, I don't really know how to explain his fight with Wrath, because it wasn't just him, it was a lot of people kind of going at Wrath all at once, and then, you know, Wrath went on to fight Scar, but I don't think Scar would have won if Fu wouldn't have got the hit off that he did on Wrath. But, when Fu seen Wrath, and he said, I can't remember his exact words, but he said, I'm glad I got to meet the, you know, person who pretty much, you know, tried to kill my granddaughter and her reason her arm's off. So, like, I just remember that scene being so powerful. And I really want to go back and rewatch the series, but, like, I just don't have time right now. I'm literally trying to watch Blue Exorcist again, and I'm on episode, like, 11, and it's taken me a week, which this never happened back in the Disney, but yeah, with Fu's character, sorry I went off on the side rant, but his character, I just kind of always seen him as the, you know, kind of cranky old guy who's just, you know, following Ling around, trying to babysit him, which was a cool, fun dynamic, but at the end of the day, he could fight, and he really did prove himself, you know, a fighter. He literally killed himself trying to protect the world, and I mean, not just the world, I mean, you know, the universe as far as it seemed what, you know, Father was doing. But yeah, Fu's a cool character, and I enjoyed that much about him. So now let's talk about Mei and Xiao Mei. I kind of just want to throw Xiao Mei in there as kind of like, you know, a little extra, but Mei is my favorite fighter in the entire series. Her Alka history is the coolest fighting in the whole series, in my opinion. The way she throws down all those, like, ninja stars, or kunai, I don't know what they were technical terms. I don't know stuff, even though I've watched all of Naruto. But, she throws them down, and she, uses that to make her circles, which is really, really cool. But, her character is more than that, because we've seen, like, at first she just wanted to beat Ling and the other people who were going for the throne, but we see her turn around. She's got the Philosopher's Stone in Envy, and she turns around and heads back. And, Envy kind of pushed her a little bit to do that, but, it was still her decision at the end of the day. And her character is just one of those characters that you kind of love, because her and Alphonse are so cute, even though it's, kind of weird, because, she's a lot younger. But then again, I don't actually know how old Alphonse is. He might be like 14 or something, and she might be like 10. I can't really tell too much in anime, but her character is one of my favorite just because of her fighting abilities, not counting. She's actually really, really smart for a kid her age. And on top of that, she was like one of the first actual characters we got to see pair up with Scar. So that was really fun. But yeah, now let's talk about Xiaomei for a second, because this little fucking panda is cute as fuck, okay? When the panda was at Alphonse, I was like, it's gonna do something, it's gonna do something, it's gonna do something. And then, like, it never really turned on him or did anything crazy, but when it went to bite him and stuff, and we see the flashbacks with May, it was so cute seeing the panda get pissed. So yeah, that's my discussion over them. But let's move on to a few more little characters. So these are just a kind of few little side characters that I really wanted to talk about, and there's not too much for me to say about, but they had cool little scenes throughout the series, so I really just kind of wanted to go ahead and discuss some of them here and there. So we start off here with Barry the Chopper. This was a character who I thought for sure had to be a one-off. Had to be a one-off character, but no. He came back and he played a major role in this in the series. He was a part of the Prison Break. It was when we really got to kind of first see Kimley's character kind of being, expanded upon. I think we got to see him one time before, but no, his fight with Alphonse and the whole Alphonse questioning, is he even real or not, was due to Barry. Barry did end up dying in the fight with Lust and everything, but still a very cool scene, very cool character overall, because I swear to you all, when I first seen him fighting Alphonse, I'm like, okay, Alphonse is going to beat him, we're never going to see him again. But no, he played a huge role in the whole Maria thing and everything, so yeah, I guess that's about it for Barry. Let's move on to another one. So picking back right off him, we go into the Slicer brothers. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of them, but they had really nice dialogue with Ed, so I kind of just wanted to include them here. And they were about to tell Ed the whole secret and everything he wanted to know until, Lust and Envy kind of stepped in. But, they were kind of cool little one-off characters. Of course, you can't really consider a character one-off when, they did only show up one time, but they only could show up one time because they literally got killed. And they got killed brutally. So, just really cool. I did enjoy it, and the whole line about, it's funny, this is the first time in our entire lives that we've ever been treated like human line to Ed was really, really nice, and, it kind of put into perspective on how Ed really feels about Al. He cares about him no matter what form he's in. Alright, so next we got Jean. Havoc is one of my favorite characters, just because, it's your typical smoker character, but he got hurt really bad in the beginning, and, he was kind of giving up on it, but he still supported Mustang's goals. And that scene right here that I've got the picture of here, where he gave, Mustang the note in the cigarette box, was really nice. And, Mustang, repaid the favor full. He wanted, Havoc to get the Philosopher's Stone first before he even got his vision back. But on top of all that, Havoc was a character who I thought was just going to be gone after that, but not only is he currently still alive in the series and apparently can walk again due to the Philosopher's Stone, but he supported them in the war by his family's general store, or whatever he called it, supplying them with literally nukes and missiles. Well, not nukes, but like missiles and like guns and shit. So that was really cool. But Havoc's just one of my favorite characters, just due to the fact that, he's the typical cigarette guy who actually, played a part from a bedside. So yeah. Here we have Maria and Denny, and Denny's character I didn't really like because he was a kind of fun little comedy person, but when he got to see Maria again and he got so happy, that was really cool. But Maria was a character who, when she was framed, I was like, okay, something's gonna happen. And then we get the bomb drop that Mustang killed her. But then we get the bomb drop that, oh no, she's still alive. And then we get the bomb drop that she's going to Shing. And then she has the line, if you ever need anything, I'll be here. And she is here. I mean, she doesn't play a major part in the war, but she does play a decent part. You know, she comes back and it's a nice little revamp of what happened. But, you know, I feel like her storyline with Mustang killing her was kind of the obvious to the point to where I didn't believe it was real. Or not to the point where I didn't believe it was real. I didn't believe it could be fake. So I was like, okay, so, you know, Maria, everyone knows she didn't do it. I mean, I thought for sure Mustang would know that, but like he was to that crazy point to where I was like, okay, maybe he did do it. So yeah, these two are just kind of fun little characters in my opinion, but Maria did have a good storyline. So the last character I want to talk about is Miles. He is by far my favorite Brig soldier and maybe one of my favorite characters. His design is amazing. He is literally, in my opinion at least, the main reason Scar decided to be, well, somewhat of a good guy. I mean, he still murdered, you know, a lot of, you know, alchemists, but still, he was the turnaround point for me. Or at least in my opinion, he was kind of like, there was seeds planted there, but he was like the final turnover here. Not counting that, you know, he's just a really good character overall, and I thought for sure Kimley was going to kill him. I thought 100% Kimley was going to murder this guy. But, you know, he's just such a cool character in my opinion, but he didn't really do much. I mean, in the war, he was a part of the crew who was distracting, you know, well, distracting Bradley, but that didn't work too well. So, you know, I don't know. I just love his character. I can't really explain why, but yeah. Well, that's all the characters I want to talk about. Wow, gang, that took forever. So yeah, after recording, this is by far my longest video, so I hope you all somewhat enjoyed it. I know it was a lot of just me discussing and rambling stuff. There's still a few things I want to talk about in the series overall because I loved it so much, gang. If you honestly have any complaints with this show, let me know, because I really couldn't find anything, like, besides minor stuff. So, like, I just kind of want to discuss about it and talk about it because it's so fun, and this video took me a lot longer than I thought it would. So hopefully the next series I watch and review over, which will probably be my rewatch of Blue Exorcist, will not be this long and will be a little bit shorter. But yeah, that's about it. I do want to talk about a few little cool scenes that happened and talk about what I think happened with Ed Now in general. The first thing I want to discuss, though, is one of the big ones going all the way back to, you know, the little girl. They still, in the very last episode, they're talking about it, and they still hold themselves accountable for what happened to her because they weren't strong enough to save her, which I still don't understand that because it wasn't their fault. I mean, they kind of should have seen the signs a little bit, I guess, but I don't know how it felt to be naturally exposed to that, because I went into that knowing that was going to happen, because that was the only thing in this series that was spoiled for me, which I really wish it wouldn't have been, because it was such an amazing moment to see, like, not that it happened, because it was sad, but, like, such an amazing moment to see how this series was gonna, you know, take something so cruel and, you know, crazy. And, you know, I mean, take it as you will. I mean, it was cruel and crazy enough, but yeah, this series for me is my favorite story-wise. I can't say that it's my favorite anime because, you know, Blue Exorcist is near and dear to my heart. Fairy Tail is the first big fandom I ever got into. And, you know, all these other shows I just love for certain reasons, but this is my favorite storytelling-wise ever. Like, I love Angels of Death. But it's not one of the better animes I've seen. It's just that I fell in love with, you know, Zack and Rachel's characters and what was going to happen next, which is really good storytelling. And that's what this series did, along with Ed is my favorite main character of all time because he's not overly busted. He's just a kid with, you know, a vendetta on his shoulder and that he wants to get over. So now let's move on to what I think happened to all the characters, or at least a select portion. What I think happened with Ed is he's just traveling like his father did, and he's, you know, trying to enlighten people on everything that's happening in the world. You know, he's never been a religious character, so I don't think he's doing anything like missionary-wise. I think he's just learning everything he can from other cultures. And for Al, I think, you know, he's going around kind of doing the same thing, but also nurturing the chimeras and, you know, trying to help them on their journey like he was helped, to help them get their bodies back. As for Ling, I think that, you know, Ling is probably doing a very good job from what his character kind of, you know, displayed. And, you know, with Mei by his side, you know, they can bring Xing to new heights. And I'm sure Ed will stop in there a few times every once in a while and talk with him. As for Mustang, I feel like he put himself in prison, honestly. I mean, there was that whole talk of him wanting to, you know, make all the alchemists pay for what they done during the war, so it would only seem right that he would do it to himself because that's what kind of character he is. As for Winry, I think, you know, she's following with Ed and traveling along with him, you know, not repairing him anymore, but, you know, being together with him. And that's just a really cute thing. I mean, as for Olivier and, you know, Alex, I feel like they're gonna grow as a, you know, a better bond between them, and maybe she'll leave Briggs and come to Central Command. And that leaves Miles open for the spot there, and I think Scar's gonna restart the Ishvalan civilization, and I just think that everything can come together so nicely. I think Pride's gonna be a good little boy and grow up nice and, you know, in his mother's arms and everything. As for where the after story would be here, I think it doesn't need to be said. Ed and Al are living out their dreams now that they accomplished their goal. So that's it for me, gang. If y'all did enjoy this video, though, I know it's been forever, and if you made it this far, thank you. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It'd mean the world to me, guys. And I am just so tired. I've been working on this video for about 3 weeks now, from start to finish, not counting the 2 weeks it took me to watch the series. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, but I appreciate everything, gang. And hopefully the next one will not be this long, like I said. But I'll catch y'all next time. Peace out.
Feeling like it's out gear, driving towards the sun with a rose and a gun. Feel the wind in my hair, going nowhere, I swear.